So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over 4 concepts from Federer's slice that you can implement into your own game that are going to make your slice better. And then after we do that, after we look at the video, we're going to go on court with Alexa and we're going to give you some drills you can practice to build those things into habits that'll stay with you during matches. We're going to start by talking about the racket and the hand and how to best control that. Then we're going to talk about posture, which is super important. We're going to talk about your strings and how the strings that you're using will affect your slice stroke. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to recruit your shoulder to get a little bit more backspin once you're ready. So I want to start with this angle, and I want to use this to show the racket forearm angle. I talk about this a lot because this, in my opinion, is the most important kind of checkpoint for using your racket. 90 degrees right here. 90-degree racket forearm angle. There's a right angle right there. Right angle, right angle, right angle. And this is what I want you to notice. See the follow through here? It's not quite 90 degrees still, but it's still basically a right angle. Maybe it's extended to 120, maybe 135. And this is kind of why we say 90 degrees to 135 degrees gives you the best control, because most of this is you start somewhere around 90, you release the hand ever so slightly through contact, but look at how much angle we have in the follow through. So a lot of people, they chop at their slice. This racket would be fully straight here or even on the other side of the forearm. That's not what we want. The slice comes from the trunk, just like every other stroke in tennis. It comes from the shoulder, from the legs, from the core. It doesn't come from chopping with the hand and the wrist. Now, the hand and the wrist can stretch and relax and fire through a little bit, but if you look at its angle, it is mostly maintained throughout the slice there. It only unwinds a little bit. So that's number one, is you're going to have a lot better control if you try to maintain this racket angle here and focus on actually attacking the ball with the big muscles in here, not by chopping at it with your hand. When we get on court, we're going to show you a drill to help you master that and learn that feeling so you don't have to think about that, so you don't have to be super tight while you do the slice. I want to move to a new angle to talk about posture, which is probably the second most important thing after how you use your racket. And I want to use this repetition right here. So this one is a lower slice, and this is how we're going to talk about posture. So you look at that, you're like, okay, it's Roger Federer. Obviously, it looks pretty, but I want to tell you why it looks so pretty. So what I want you to look at here is I want you to look at this green indicator on Federer's shirt compared to his hand. And I want to show you the way that he's adjusting to low contact. So see how his hand is actually moving up here. Now this ball, we know it's going to be low, but his hand is actually moving up. It's moving up, it's moving up. So the hand doesn't actually start to move down until the swing. So how did he adjust to low contact? If we go back to here, he adjusted by bending the knee and bending the hip. So by bending and leaning. So you adjust your contact with the slice, not by trying to do something different with your hand by itself. No, the hand goes up and drives through pretty much the same way on every slice. You adjust by using your entire body, specifically your legs and your trunk, to bend and lean. And now we're just going to slice from this bent and leaned position instead of from an upright position, which we might do if the slice were something like shoulder height. And now we can release that racket through the ball. Again, see how we see that we didn't chop at the slice. We're coming through with that same angle we had at the beginning. And then the last thing I want to talk about with posture, again, nice double bend right here. See the Z right here? Bend at the knee, bend at the hip. Bend at the knee, bend at the hip. And the back is neutral. So when you're bending at the hip, it's very important not to round the back. That's going to sap your power, sap your balance, and if you do it enough, you might get injured. You probably won't, but if you really try to hit through and twist with a rounded back, you will get injured. If you're not moving that fast, then you're rounding back, you won't get injured, you'll just feel a lot less athletic. So, bend at the knee, bend at the hip, neutral spine. And when you're naturally bending at the knee, bending at the hip with a neutral spine, and trying to maintain this 90-degree angle here and use your body to swing at the slice rather than chopping with your hand, it's going to feel very natural. Oh, ball's low, I just lean in and I bend more, and there we go. My racket flies through it very naturally. Okay, let's talk about strings. So let's use this repetition. This one's got a lot of extra knife on it. It's a little bit of a bigger swing, faster racket head speed, more backspin. And when you really knife the slice like this, it's not so much of a chip as more of a knifed full swing at the slice. Backspin and the amount of backspin that your strings generate when the string bed cuts across the ball through contact like this, that is going to play a bigger role in the ball's flight than on something like a defensive block. The result of that is that the exact way that your strings interact with the ball is going to change the way you need to swing. So if we look at Roger Federer's swing here, that ball, it launched off on that trajectory with a certain amount of backspin. Now, that's with this string bed. If you string with something else, which you probably do, and you have a different racket and a different swing weight, that ball might launch flatter or higher with that same swing, and the amount of backspin might be more or less, which will make the ball kind of float more or less. Now, this is not something you could figure out. I mean, hypothetically, with math, you could figure it out, but that's not how we do things in tennis. What you need to do is you need to get on court. And when you're practicing your slice, you're not trying to mimic Federer's exact incidence angle on the ball here. What you're trying to do is do the fundamentals right. Use your racket similarly. Use your trunk and your posture similarly. See the ball in space, hit it on the center of the string bed, and then just use the feedback of exactly what the ball's flight looks like to calibrate that swing. You may not end up chopping down on the ball like that when you knife your slice. Yours might look a little bit more back to front and a little bit less high to low. Or maybe you end up having to chop more than Federer. I've played with different string setups, some where this slice would be going out and some where this slice would be halfway into the net. There's a whole variety, and this isn't about telling you if you use poly swing like this, if you use gut swing like this, if you use 50-pound swing like this. No, it's about telling you that we don't want to try to copy exact swings, but rather just basic mechanics, because the exact way you calibrate this motion and the exact amount that you need to knife down the ball to create a heavy slice is going to vary based on your string bed. It might vary based on the weather. It might vary based on the balls. It might vary based on whether that string bed is a day old or a week old. So calibrate this once you get on court, and we'll talk about that more when we get to the court. And this is a great rep to talk about our last concept, which is using the shoulder and how to stretch and release that shoulder, and to a lesser extent the forearm, through the slice. So here, in this prep position, the shoulder has a light stretch here, the forearm has a light stretch here, and the offhand is helping kind of cock this racket into that lightly stretched position. And because it's stretched, when we fire through contact, those stretches release, and the shoulder and the hand release that racket with a little extra velocity. The reason this is our fourth concept is you really only want to try to cock the racket and really stretch it like this for that extra velocity once you're doing those other three things we talked about right. Once you have this nice, controlled forearm racket angle, this nice, stable, balanced posture, and you've kind of calibrated, you've hit 10, 20 slices, you've got a good sense of the depth and the height that you're getting, that, once that's going well, is the point where you want to try to release and stretch and release that shoulder a little bit more and try to feel that stretch and increase that knife, that racket velocity through the hitting zone. If you do that in the wrong order, like if you do this without good posture or without being able to control the racket head or without understanding how your strings are playing on that day, then when you try to add velocity by stretching and releasing that shoulder, you're just going to end up with a lot of slices that float long or wide on you, a lot of stuff you actually accidentally knife down into the net, and it's going to be a frustrating time. So do this in the right order. Increase the acceleration on that slice once you're feeling confident like you're going to make every single one. Now let's head over to the court, and we'll start with a drill that you can warm up with to work on your posture.
The crab walk is a great warm-up drill to work on your posture. And this is an exaggeration of the kind of way that you'll move while slicing, but it's a good exaggeration because it's going to stress your body a little bit more in the natural way that it's going to be stressed when you do this. And because of that, you're going to be able to really feel, you're going to feel your butt working, you're going to feel your knees working, your low back and your trunk working to keep you balanced through here. And a lot of people, when they play the slice, they think they're in that low balanced position, but they're not. They're really up here. And so when you exaggerate it, when you do something like this and you exaggerate that kind of emotion, it teaches you what that really feels like so that you have a reference for if you're trying to recruit that kind of a posture while you play a slice. And for a right-handed player, this specific pattern, this karaoke step crab walk, is extremely useful when it comes to the slice, because on a lot of your low approach slices, you're gonna feel most comfortable following through to the net with this kind of karaoke crab walk. And again, it's probably not gonna be this low, but it's gonna look something like this, and it's gonna recruit your body in a similar way.
Now on to practicing that racket angle and how to make that racket hand coordination really intuitive.
So a great drill for learning how to feel this racket angle is to hold your racket at 90 degrees and just try to hit a target in the service box. This is a heck of a lot simpler than trying to do this at the baseline. And all you're trying to do is calibrate that bounce off your strings. The reason that that target is there is so we're not just swinging blind. I know exactly, okay, I hit that a little bit off where I wanted to. There, I know, oh, that was a little bit short. If I go like this, almost perfect. So your brain can calibrate this motion. Now, you're gonna be able to control the ball better if you keep that racket forearm angle roughly at 90 degrees while you do this. You'll notice all the adjustment here is happening with the upstream parts of the body. So I'm using my legs and my trunk to adjust how that racket strikes the ball. What I'm not doing is this. You notice that the very first time I did that, shot wasn't even close. I'm gonna do a couple of this chopping style so you can see this. Look at that. I can barely even control how the racket is coming through contact with the ball. So I'm gonna go back to 90 for a little while so you can just see the difference one more time. And I'm using my chest, I'm using my trunk, my lower body to get that racket through space where I want it. The second I start chopping, that one was actually not bad. And it is so hard to control that strike. And it feels, even if you see it, it might look like these kind of chops using your hand are gonna help you get backspin, but I promise you, you are not gonna be able to control your reply while chopping like that. So the only restriction I want you to put on yourself is to try to keep this racket at 90 degrees here, and then just try to hit that target. Try to hit the ball on the strings, try to hit the target on the other side, and calibrate it. Last thing I want to talk about here is one of the reasons we have a target is, let's say I go pick up my other racket here. This one's a lot newer and a lot tighter. So the bounce is going to come off slightly differently on this one. But because, oh, good shot. But because I have that target there, that's fine. It doesn't matter that this racket's going to bounce differently than my other one, right? So if I hit with my other one, oh, that's a lot shorter than I expect. But that's fine. I can just quickly recalibrate because I have that target there. And so my brain is always getting real-time feedback about how close that motion that I produced, that strike that I made, was to my intended strike. So again, only restriction here, keep your racket at 90, hit the ball on the strings, try to hit that target, and just let your brain calibrate. So once you're comfortable on that service line target, it's just a similar drill, but from the baseline. And now it's gonna take a little bit more velocity to get that ball to go to the target. But it's the same mental principle. All you do, keep that racket at 90, use your body to accelerate it. Don't start chopping with your hand like that. And just see how close you can get to that target. Oh, Alexa is really close. No. And it's the same thing, right? So that one went into the net. So now I don't have to think anything. My brain just knows that that particular swing I just took was not quite properly calibrated. I probably chopped or knifed down a little bit too much. And you don't even need to do this with a partner. You can just warm up with a partner and just take a couple shots where you visualize a target in your head and you try to hit it with the slice and calibrate that slice to figure out, exactly how the balls are playing, exactly how the court's playing. And all you have to do is observe and adjust. Oh, Alexa is so close. And that's it. That one I didn't hit the strings. I just fed a different ball. These balls are a mess, right? So this ball's probably more dead or less dead than the last one. But within a couple, my brain just subconsciously is going to very quickly figure out how to tweak that swing in order to make the slice go where I want. So all of the, great shot by Alexa. So all of the complexity of the slice really goes away when you start small, start simple, work back, and just allow your body to find that swing. So a third drill and a great way to work on the slice is to play these kind of awkward backhand approach shots. Now, the reason we're doing the whole pattern is that this is one of the really common uses for the slice, is to handle this kind of awkward mid-court backhand ball in the service box. And if you don't do the approach pattern, you're going to do this in a match, you're going to make the slice, you're going to miss the volley. So we want to do the whole thing. This ball is very tricky to handle without the slice. And because of that, similarly, it's a very good way to practice your slice and to make your slice useful in matches and to make this slice a weapon, because whereas other people wouldn't be able to win the point on this ball,
you will be able to. Because you've put yourself in that situation during practice, you're going to be able to execute.
So when you're working on your slice, you can do this drill live too. You don't have to do it with a coach. You can just feed it here, have the player approach, and then play out the point. One of the nice things about this is it's going to give you a really good gauge of how good your slice is. Because if you hit a bad slice, now that's a very good slice, you're probably going to get an easy volley. If you hit a worse slice, you'll probably get a less good volley. And as a coach, I'm going to try to do that. So Alexa, oh, she missed that one. But if she hits a slice that kind of sits up and bounces, creating a relatively easy passing shot, then as a coach, I'm going to try to give her a tougher volley. Whereas if she hits a really nice knife, I'm going to try to give her a realistic shot that she would be looking at there. Now that one's really good, so she's probably going to get something bad, and then you have to be able to focus and knock that off. When you're working on a shot, you want to put yourself in a situation that forces you to hit that shot with quality. Just play this drill with a partner, try to win 7-0, right? Here's the feed, try to win 7-0. Your body will find the slice that works. It'll intuitively realize, okay, oh, that one is really good. I got a really easy volley. Oh, that slice, that wasn't that good. So once you have the basics down, once you're confident your body's basically moving how you want to, then you just got to let your intuition optimize. Just try to win. Try to win, and your body will find the motion that works to execute this pattern.